Very warm good evening, everyone. I am Dirgha Joshi, currently serving as founding coordinator for Association of Faculties of Pharmacy of Nepal. I did my master's and Ph.D. in medicinal chemistry from Kong University, followed by Ph.D. from Yonsei University, South Korea. Then I moved to US for some antiviral drug discovery in some NIH project. And currently, I am serving as assistant professor at Karnali Academy of Health Science, Jumla, teaching pharmacy student, medicinal chemistry, analytical chemistry, some herbal technology related thing. And I will be serving as a host for today's episode. Very first, I would like to welcome Assistant Professor Dr. Krishna Undela in this AFPN forum. Thank you, sir, for accepting our invitation and managing your busy schedule to share something to our student and several faculty members throughout from Nepal. And let me introduce briefly him. His CV look quite long. It will take about half an hour or 1 hour to introduce him in detail. He worked in a wide dimension. He is currently working as assistant professor at Department of Pharmacy Practice, National Institute of Pharmaceutical Education and Research, NIPER, Guwahati, Assam, India. As you all know, NIPER is one of the renowned institute in India in pharmaceutical research. He already have published more than 100 peer-reviewed publications with achieving more than 1700 plus citation and H-index 20, I-10 27. And he received several government grants. He is working as an advisory board about more than 20 lakhs government grant he already completed and working on some more dimension. So our hope in today's forum is mostly the young beginning career faculty member and some final year student and some are quite interested in research are present in this forum. So from the philosophical point of view, writing as well as encouraging them from the scratch will be our intention for today's forum. With this brief introduction, Dr. Krishna, I will hand over this mic to you. You can proceed. It's your forum now. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Joshi, and good evening to all the members who joined here. And first of all, I'd like to thank the organizers and especially Dr. Joshi for inviting me. And I'm very glad to know the Association of Faculties of Pharmacy of Nepal conducted this kind of activities for the Nepal young faculty of students to give them more insights apart from the regular curriculum activities. And thanks for approaching me on talking on one of the very important topic for all the young researchers and faculty members throughout the country of Nepal. And because now, as we can see, the literature is growing like anything. And when people are publishing what kind of policies and then regulations they need to follow basically. And also like the scientific conduct is more important while publishing. And we must be knowing what are the author guidelines. And when you're publishing, when you're writing manuscript, what are the things we need to follow? I think those are the things we are going to discuss in today's topic. And what I thought is I have not prepared any PPT as such. I think PPT, there's no use in discussing, I think just going through the PPT. And I think most of the things whatever given to me for today's talk, what are the objectives mentioned for today's session, I can share with you a very important website where I think most of the things are answered. And after that, maybe I can also show you some of my practical experiences in terms of publishing good articles in good journals, publishing by good publishers, especially in the area of systematic review and meta-analysis, because that's what is my core area of interest, systematic review and meta-analysis. So I can explain to you a little bit about how we can go and conduct systematic review and meta-analysis and how we can publish these kind of articles. So we can spend some good amount of time, and maybe first I can share what are the thoughts are there with me on this provided topic. And then I think mostly we can spend more time on the question and answer so that you can ask what are the questions you are having in mind so that I can try to see how best I can provide you the answers for that. It will be more like interactive and fruitful session we can have. I can understand that all of us join after hours of our regular activities. So whatever time you're spending in this after hours, it must be fruitful. I think you should gain something from this session because you are attending it. let us see like how best you can able to grab the new insights from this session. I'll share my screen. Just give me a second. Hope you can able to see my screen now.
Yeah, we can see, sir.
Yes. So the website I told you, which is very interesting and very informative, and most of the journals, most of the renowned journals currently, medical journals especially, because pharmacy comes under medical domain, most of the journals will be following the guidelines prepared by this particular organization. And if you know about this organization, and if you can go and see the recommendations given by the organization, you will understand in depth of all the rules and regulations what we need to follow while going for the publication process mainly. So that is like maybe you can see it's a international committee for medical journals editors basically. So that's a full form of it, ICMJE. So from today's session, the very important thing, I think maybe some of you may be knowing, the faculty members may be knowing, when you're going for publication process, the people will ask you to provide the consent form based on this organization, the consent form given by this organization basically. So it is called International Committee of Medical Journals Editors. So it's like a group of, you can see clearly what they mentioned about this organization. It's like a small organization. Maybe we can see this about ICMJE. So ICMJE, understanding is very important here. It's like a small working group of general medical journal editors whose participants meet annually and fund their own work on a very important things like recommendations for conduct, reporting, editing, and publication of scholarly work in medical journals. So that's the main purpose of having this organization. It's like a group of people who are coming together, mostly the editors of some of the renowned journals in the medical area. They are coming out with the recommendations every year. They're sitting together and then providing the recommendations, mainly for the purpose of conducting, reporting, editing, and finally making for the publications. The scholarly work, nothing but research work in the medical journals. And that's going to be even invite the comments and provide the suggestions as well. And if you can see, like when we can go and see on the main page of the website. So here we can see some of the important announcements. The latest one currently available, published in January 2026. And we can understand that every year they're coming out with the recommendations, and sometimes even they're changing it, and some kind of modification they're making in the guidelines, what they're preparing, basically the recommendations. So the previous one, January 2025, and before that, January 2024. I think every year, January, we are expecting these recommendations to be coming from this ICMJE. And the current recommendations are published in January 2026, right? And here we can go and browse, and we can download the entire recommendations from this ICMJE, basically. And very interestingly, we can see here that who are the members, who are the publishers mainly involved and preparing these guidelines, recommendations, and they will be following all these recommendations certainly when they're publishing any article in their journals. So we can see like Annals of Internal Medicine, BMJ, JAMA, NEJM, very renowned and topmost journals in the medical area, even including the PLOS. And all these journals are commonly following certain recommendations given by this ICMJE. That means overall, like whenever you want to publish any article, any manuscript in any journal that is given by or publishing by any publisher, most of us, we need to follow these recommendations when we are making the manuscript and when we are sending for the manuscript for the publication purpose, right? So these are the recommendations mainly given by this ICMJE. And also they have a very important document called disclosure of interest. And nowadays you can see that whatever the manuscript you want to submit for any journal, they will be commonly asking you to fill and then submit this disclosure of interest, which is prepared by this ICMJE. That's where one of the common form is available basically for providing the disclosure of interest by all the authors. So everyone must fill this form, and then we need to upload it while we are submitting the manuscript to the journal basically. And if you can go and see inside of these recommendations, what exactly they provided, each and every aspect of this publication process, the scientific conduct, everything, what are the objectives of the session, completely covered in these recommendations. You can find each and every point here. In general, we can see the chapters which are there here, mainly the 5 chapters, what we can have in the recommendations. About the recommendations, roles and responsibilities of different people who are involved in the publication process, publishing and editorial issues, manuscript preparation for submission, and use of finally the artificial intelligence in publishing. I think that's one of the newly added recommendation to this ICMJE recommendations, basically, use of artificial intelligence in the publishing process. And one by one, if we can go and see about the recommendations, we have what is the purpose of these recommendations and who should follow the recommendations, the history of recommendations given by this ICMJE, everything you can understand very clearly here. And within the roles and responsibilities, we can see the roles of authors and co-contributors and the financial and non-financial disclosure agreements, conflict of interest, how we need to produce, responsibilities in the submission and peer review process by both the editors and then reviewer members, journal owners and editorial freedom, how the freedom should be there, and the protection of research participants. In all these aspects, they have given very clearly under the roles and responsibilities of all the people who are involved in the publication process. And publishing and editorial issues are mainly covered here, like when we are writing the manuscript, when we are submitting for the to the journal, what are the things we need to follow and what are the things mainly we need to upload, basically. All the things are very clearly explained here, including the scientific misconduct, they have mentioned very clearly here. And the manuscript preparation and submission, this is what is very important for all the audience who are attending this session today. How to prepare a manuscript. First of all, the manuscript, like manuscriptus. Previously, the meaning is like preparing a script manually with a handwritten. That's what is a full form of manuscript, basically. But nowadays, we are writing by using the computers and we are writing in a Word document, everything is fine. We can still call it as a manuscript. And the very important and basic difference between manuscript and then article, people will be using both the terms simultaneously and synonymously. They both are different, basically. When we are writing, like after conducting the research, and when we are converting that research into the publishable format, because we need to prepare as per the guidelines given by the journal. When you're preparing as per the journal guideline, the manuscript, the concise information from your entire research, and that one we can call it as a manuscript. The one which we are uploading to the journal website, the Word documents, we can call it as a manuscript. And once it is accepted by the journal and get it published, then we can call it as an article. So when we are writing it, it's a manuscript. Once it gets published by the journal, we can call it as an article, basically. Okay, so that's an important difference between a manuscript and an article. And here we have a clear-cut outline information about the manuscript preparation and then submission, how to prepare a manuscript and then how to submit it to the journal, basically. We can understand all these things here in the chapter number 4. And chapter number 5 is mainly for the use of artificial intelligence in publishing. And nowadays we know that we are at the era of artificial intelligence. We are using commonly AI in almost all the aspects, including the research while writing manuscript. And for all the purposes, we are using it. So they are saying that it is not that usage of AI is denied. We can use it carefully, judiciously. But whatever the AI platforms you're using, you must disclose all of them when you are writing the conflict of interest disclosure form. We need to mention all those things. What are the AI platforms you have used? For what purpose you have used? What are the such terms you have mentioned, basically, the terms what you have mentioned while using the AI platform. And all these things we need to mention very clearly in the conflict of interest or disclosure form, basically. Still we can use it. And AI used by authors, AI used by reviewers, even nowadays we can see that whenever we are sending any manuscript for any journal, we are getting the comments such a way that they're very huge in nature, so many, including the bulleted points. And we can clearly understand that these are the comments not given by the reviewer. These are the comments given by the AI. We can understand clearly because no person on the earth, especially the reviewers who are very senior people in that domain, will be having that much time to write 3-4 pages comments on any article what we are submitting. They don't have that much time. They cannot write in a stringent way. Understand means writing on each and every aspect, each and every line, basically. So we can easily understand that these are the things which are developed by the AI, because they are giving to the AI to write a comments on the manuscript, and we are getting the comments and then they are submitting to the journal, basically. So they are using it, but they mention very carefully they need to use the AI platforms by the reviewers. and editor's role in ensuring the responsible use of the AI. So that they're mentioning very clearly that we can use the AI for different purposes in the research process and then making the publication. But still, we need to use the AI in a responsible way. So that's what is mainly given by the recommendations of ICMJ. So when we go and see one by one, I think you can go and see, like when you get a time, it's an easy way of understanding all the publication process through this International Committee of the Medical Journal Editors, basically. And maybe we can spend more time on this one because that's a topic of the session, manuscript preparation and then submission, how to prepare the manuscript, and then while preparing the manuscript, what all things we need to keep in mind. So I can tell you one thing very simple. Whenever you want to prepare any manuscript, first of all, maybe the first copy we can generate as a common manuscript format. Like usually in any manuscript, we can have some of the common things like we can have a title, we can have abstract, and then introduction, methodology, results, discussion, conclusion, references. So these are some of the common sections. So we can write it in a general way first. The draft manuscript we can prepare first. And then second thing we need to have is like, we need to, first of all, identify the journal to which you want to submit your manuscript. And once you identify the journal, now it's our responsibility to go through the journal completely, the journal website. In the journal website, somewhere you can identify the author guidelines. So author guidelines are very important to go through before submitting any manuscript. And we need to prepare our manuscript now, or we need to convert the manuscript now, whatever we have prepared, the draft version, into a format asking by the journal, particular journal. Because nowadays what is happening, every journal will be having their own format and own recommendations and own guidelines. So we need to follow the author guidelines of that particular journal for preparing the manuscript. So they will give you each and everything, how to prepare a title page, how to prepare the full text manuscript. In the full text manuscript, how to write an abstract, right? And abstract also sometimes it will be like only single paragraph, or they will ask you to make the structured abstract. Structured abstract means in the abstract we are going to structure the abstract in such a way that we can write the objectives, or maybe the introduction first, objectives, methodology, results, and finally conclusion. So most of the research articles we are going to prepare the structured abstract, and they will give you how to write the introduction, what should be there, how to write the methodology, how to write the results, discussion, conclusion, especially how to prepare the references. As we know that references styles are so many which are existing, and for every journal we need to follow different referencing style. So we need to prepare the references as per the guidelines given by the journal. And once you prepare everything as per the guidelines given by the journal, then we are going to upload in the manuscript central of that particular journal. So there's a stringent processes there, because nowadays what's happening, if you're not following any single point in the author guidelines also, they will revert to you simply stating that it is not moved further. You need to make these changes, then only it can be moved further for the editorial review and then peer review process. Unless otherwise, if you're not making as per the journal guidelines, they're not going to move forward your manuscript. We should be very, very careful, because earlier at least it was looking after by the people, the human resources of the journal. They'll be a little bit lenient if something is not available, they will send it to the editor. But nowadays it is mainly checking by the AI platforms and very, very, very stringent. So whenever AI is checking, it will be very critical. They'll be looking after each and every point in the guidelines, either you followed or not. If you're not followed, it'll come back to you immediately. So we need to follow the author guidelines as it is when you're preparing the manuscript, okay? And so we can see here some of the points given by this ICMJE for preparing the manuscript for submission to a medical journal. Some of the journal principles I have given here. And that's what I mentioned to you. When we are writing any manuscript, we are going to write the manuscript in such a way that we are going to write all the things. The entire manuscript will be divided mainly into the introduction, methods, results, discussion sections. And this is called as IMRAT. So IMRAT format, we are going to follow while writing the manuscript. The main text of the manuscript will be divided mainly into these sections: introduction, methods, results, and discussion. Okay. So IMRAT format we are going to mainly follow. And so we can have, based on the need, we can have some subheadings. These are the main headings. So based on the need and requirement, we can have some subheadings within these sections. Usually we don't prepare any subheadings in the introduction, and subheadings mainly will come in the methods and results section, not even in the discussion. In the methods, in the results, we can have some subheadings based on the requirement, and then we can prepare the manuscript accordingly. And the very important thing, the second part is going to be like, apart from following the guidelines given by the journal while preparing the manuscript, there are few things like reporting guidelines. So for every kind of research what we are doing nowadays, we are going to have some kind of reporting guidelines. That means they will tell you very clearly what should be there in the manuscript when you are preparing, based on the study design what you are following. Okay, so for example, you are conducting a randomized controlled trial. Okay, so if you're conducting any randomized controlled trial, if you're preparing any manuscript for publication purpose from the trial, you need to certainly follow the checklist given by the consort. So I can click here. So there's something like consort. It's a consolidated standards of reporting trials, basically. So there's a checklist available here, and 2025, the latest version is available here. You need to follow the same checklist, and you need to make sure that whatever the information provided in the checklist, you need to follow exactly, and you need to mention all these things very clearly in the manuscript. I can show you quickly the consort checklist, the 2025 one. They're going to mention very clearly, like in each and every section of the manuscript of a randomized controlled trial, what all the things you need to mention, very clearly, and you need to even fill and submit this one when you are uploading manuscript to the journal, by mentioning that and all these points in which page of the manuscript you have provided very clearly. So title and abstract, what should be there, and there's something like open science nowadays it came up, where you need to mention the trial registration. As we know that every randomized controlled trial, we must register in a platform called clinicaltrial.gov if it is in US. In India, we have CTRI. So like that, different countries will be having different platforms. We need to register there. We are going to get the number, and that number we need to provide while writing the manuscript. And the protocol, statistical analysis, data sharing, and all these things. Introduction, what should be there? Methods, what are all the things which are important to be mentioned in the methods very clearly. So they have given here the description of each and every point. We need to make sure that in the method section, we need to address all these points in detail. When you're writing any manuscript from the randomized control trial, method section is very, very important, because whatever goes in the methods, it will be coming out as a result. If your method is very strong and very stringent, everything is fine without biases, the results can be trustworthy. So that's the reason you can see so many points in the method section in any kind of research. So we need to follow all the things as it is and then mention in detail in the manuscript what we're preparing. And the result section, of course, we need to explain in detail with the different sections. Once again, we can have under the results, and where we are presenting the results mainly in the form of tables and figures, and explaining a very important result in the form of text. Okay, like supporting the information what we are providing in the tables and figures, we need to write the important observations in the text as well. And then we can have discussion points. In the discussion only, we can have the interpretations, limitations, even conclusions we are going to add under the discussion part, basically. So like this, it is very clearly mentioned in this reporting guideline. Consort is a checklist, basically, especially meant for the randomized control trials. When you are preparing any manuscript of the randomized control trial, we need to follow the consort checklist. Like that, now we have checklists for almost all the study designs. For example, if you're conducting any cohort study, case control study, cross-sectional study, any kind of observational study, basically, we are going to follow a similar checklist called STROBE, strengthening of reporting of observational studies, observational epidemiology, basically. So this call is a STROBE checklist we need to follow for the observational studies. And if you're conducting any systematic review and meta-analysis, the topic for today, systematic review and meta-analysis. Like systematic review and meta-analysis, nothing but we are not doing any research as such. We are going to select a topic, and on the topic, whatever the literature available currently from different databases, For example, PubMed, Google Scholar, Embase, EBSCO, Scopus, Cochrane Library. So we are going to search what are the databases available with us, and we are going to collect all the articles published on the topic and summarize the information available from all these articles. Then we can call it as a systematic review. And on top of it, if you're performing any analysis to pool the results of all the studies, whatever you have included in the systematic review, we can call it as a meta-analysis. So meta-analysis is nothing but extension of systematic review, where you are pooling all the results. We need to, for example, we have included 10 studies, and from 10 studies, we are having the results of 10 results we are having, and we are combining all the 10 results from all the 10 studies, come out with a single result, combining all the 10 and come out with a single result. That's what we can call it as a meta-analysis. So what's happening here is like, if you're having any confusion that which article to be followed for practice, and some of the articles giving positive association, some are giving negative association, some are telling no association, we are in a confusion that which one to be taken for practice. In that case, what we can do is like, we can go and conduct the meta-analysis, where we can combine all the results, come out with a single result. The single result may be telling you there's a positive association, negative association, or no association. And finally, that we can follow in the regular practice. So that's where the advantage is going to be like systematic review and meta-analysis. We're going to combine the studies to come out with a one single outcome. And when you're conducting any systematic review meta-analysis, we need to follow once again a checklist called PRISMA. So PRISMA is a very important guideline document. Once again, it's a preferred reporting items for systematic review and meta-analysis. So PRISMA checklist we're going to follow. And once again, they have given very clearly that what are the things we need to follow while writing the manuscript after conducting any systematic review and meta-analysis. And similarly, we have something called STAD. So STAD is mainly meant for studies of diagnostic test accuracy. If you're performing any study on understanding the diagnostic test, comparing any diagnostic test with the gold standard one currently available, and those kind of studies, if you are writing any manuscript, we need to follow the guidelines of the STAD, S-T-A-R-T, okay? And like that, we have different guidelines for different kinds of study designs. If you are writing any manuscript from this study design, we must follow these guidelines. On top of it, on top of whatever we are following based on the author guidelines, okay? These are not the author guidelines, these are the standard guidelines based on the study design. On top of the author guidelines, what we are following, we must follow the guidelines given by these checklists while writing the manuscript. And all these guidelines, you can freely get it from one of the important website called Equator Network. You can note down that. Equator Network is a platform where you can download freely all this checklist, whatever I mentioned here. It is only few. If you can go and see the equatornetwork.org, where you can find maybe more than 40 checklists, which we are following commonly while writing any manuscript, basically, right? And the manuscript sections, so they explain very clearly here, the title page should be there. Sometimes it may be a different document, or sometimes it may be within the same manuscript. So it depends upon the general guidelines. Once again, we can prepare the title page, where you're going to mention the article title, author information, some of the disclaimers. If you get any support, financial or non-financial support, if you got anything, we need to explain very clearly here. And they will ask you to mention the word count. So we need to mention like how many words are there in the abstract and how many are there in the full text article. So you need to mention that very clearly. And so it is very important to mention the word count, because journals will have a limitation, and they will tell you very clearly that the text must contain only this many words. For any research article, I think it will be not more than 2,500 or 3,000 words, excluding the tables and figures and references. You must be concising your article manuscript within the word limit given by the journals. And the number of figures and tables, even here also we can have some restriction. They don't allow you to keep so many figures and tables. They will tell you maximum 4. Maybe tables or figures, combining both, you should have maximum 4. If you have more than that, we have an option nowadays. We can have a supplementary annexure where we can keep all the remaining tables and figures which you feel important to readers, and they'll be publishing only in the online form, not in the hard copy. So we can go with a supplementary file, basically, if you have more than the given number of tables and figures, basically. and the disclosure of relationship and activities. So once again, you need to fill this form, disclosure form given by this ICMJE, and you need to upload along with the manuscript. And they have given you like how to write the abstract, and the abstract will be usually the structured abstract where we need to mention usually the purpose, the basic procedures we followed, like the methodology, the main findings, results, and then some of the principal conclusions you need to mention very clearly in the abstract. And the introduction, how to write and what should be there. So I can give you some brief idea like how to write the introduction and what should be there in the introduction. So if you can understand one word related to each and every section, it will be easy for you to understand what to write under each and every section, I can tell you. So introduction, just remember why, okay? So introduction, we are going to mention clearly why we are doing the study. What is the importance of conducting this study? That's what we need to explain very clearly in the introduction part. So we are going to have some background of the study, and we are going to mention the specific purpose of the study, why we are conducting. And in the final paragraph, we are going to mention very clearly the objective or hypothesis of the study, mainly, including some of the background work already published on the topic, we can mention in brief manner. But otherwise, the main important thing should be there in the introduction is going to be like why you are conducting this study. What is the objective or the hypothesis of the study? We need to mention very clearly. Then only you can able to convince the reviewer that this article is something new, which should be published in the journal. If they feel that your hypothesis is not novel, or you have not done anything new compared to the existing literature, your article is not going to be published. Okay, so we should convince the reviewer in the introduction that whatever we did, it is something new, novel, a very important addition to the existing literature. And coming to the methods, we're going to explain very clearly what we did. In the method section, what we did and how we did. Basically, we can remember the term called how. For the introduction, we can remember the word called why. And methods is going to be explained about the how you did the study. So whatever the procedure you follow, you need to explain in detail in the method section. Very detailed. You need to mention very clearly entire things in the methods what you followed, starting from especially the patient-oriented research if you're doing. What is the selection process and how we are selecting the people from the population, their inclusion criteria, exclusion criteria, and all the ethical statements, everything you need to mention very clearly in the method section. How you collected the data and how you measure the outcomes. And finally, in the method section, you are going to have the statistics. So one separate paragraph we are going to have as a statistical analysis. We need to mention very clearly that what all the types of analysis we have performed for doing the analysis of the data, what we got it, and what kind of software we have used mainly for conducting the analysis. So we need to mention very clearly all this statistical part in a separate paragraph in the methodology. Okay, so that's about methods. Going to answer the question how you did the study, and the results part, you're going to understand what you got from the study, and you need to mention all those things very clearly. What exactly the findings you got it from the study, you need to mention in the results section. And most of the information we are going to keep in the tables, figures within the text. And one thing is very important, like do not repeat all the data in the tables and figures in the text. So when you're writing the text in the result section, don't repeat everything what you have in the tables and figures. Just mention or just emphasize or summarize only the most important observations, what you have already explained in form of the table and figure. So in the result section, the very important thing is going to be like tables and figures. First, you prepare the tables and figures in the result section. Explain as much as possible in the tables and figures, all your data, whatever you got it, all your findings. And now you can go and summarize, go and give a brief information about all these tables and figures. So first, if you have your tables and figures ready, so that preparing manuscript is going to be very easy for you. That's what I used to follow. Even I ask my students to first show me the tables and figures from this manuscript. So once you finalize the tables and figures, writing a brief information from these tables and figures is very easy. We can go and write it, add all the tables and figures. So the result section is final. So we got all the information now, right? So that's what we are going to have in the results. And coming to the discussion, and it is going to answer the question, so what? In the results, we are going to get answer for the what we got. In the discussion, we are going to have something like, so what? You got the results, fine. So what? And to whom it is going to be need, and to whom it's going to serve the purpose, and what are the findings you got here, how differ they are from the existing literature. That's what we need to clearly discuss. So discussion is mainly meant for discussing the findings what you got in the result section. We are going to discuss very clearly, especially we can take some of the important observations from the results, some of the critical outcomes information we can take it here and discuss in detail in the discussion section compared to the existing literature. So among all the references, most of the references should be in this section. So you need to quote as much as possible references in the discussion section, and where you can say that, what are the findings you got, how best they are matching or how they are not matching with the existing literature. You need to explain very clearly in the discussion section, basically. Okay. And in the same discussion section, maybe at the last paragraph, we can have as a conclusion. So conclusions we can mention as a last paragraph. As per the general guidelines, we can prepare within the discussion, or maybe we can have a separate heading for the conclusion. So we can write one paragraph about the conclusion. And before going for conclusion, one more important aspect in the discussion is going to be like, it's very important to explain the limitations of the study. Limitations very important. For every manuscript, for every article, for every research, certainly there will be some limitations. So without limitations, no one will conduct any research. You need to explain in detail what all the limitations we have while conducting the research. So we need to mention very clearly here. And then finally, the references, as I mentioned, that every journal will be having their own format. We need to prepare the references based on that format. And nowadays, we can use so many online platforms we have, like Jotero, Mendeley, EndNote. These are the platforms we are having, where we can take the support of these platforms for making the references ready for our articles, basically. And then we can have this tables and figures. There are going to be some standard formats we need to follow for preparing the tables and figures. Either we are going to keep the tables and figures within the same document, same manuscript, or sometimes they will ask you to prepare separate documents for the tables and figures, keep it separately, and then upload it separately while uploading into the journal website. And while writing the manuscript, if you are having some units of measurement like kg or maybe like a meter, liter, and all these things, we are going to follow certain standards, which will be given once again by the journal. We can follow the same thing. For example, degree Celsius, blood pressure, we need to monitor how millimeter mercury. So like that, we need to have some standard units we need to follow while writing the manuscript. And very importantly, the abbreviations and symbols, they mention very clearly that use only the standard abbreviations like HIV, AIDS, TB. These are some of the important standard abbreviations which everyone knows, and we can follow the same thing while writing the manuscript. And don't create unnecessarily any abbreviations on your own. As much as possible, try to expand the abbreviations throughout the manuscript so that it will be easy for the readers. Unless otherwise, if it is not a standard abbreviation, try to expand it maximum possible. If it is coming very frequently throughout the manuscript, that particular statement, and for that, till now there is no standard abbreviation is available. You can make your own, but you need to follow the same throughout the manuscript. Okay, so like that, we need to prepare the manuscript, and finally we can have a good manuscript with us, which will be ready for communication. Communication, nothing but sending manuscript to the journal. So we have a next section here in the same chapter number 4. And the first thing we understand that how to prepare a manuscript for submitting to the medical journal, and now sending to the manuscript to the journal, how we are going to do that. And for this one, I think very easy thing is going to be like, we need to follow as it is the guidelines given by the journal. And for every journal now, the standard journal especially, every journal will have the standard website. The manuscript central website will be there, where we can go and create our account on the name of the corresponding author, and then upload all the documents, whatever we are having, manuscript, wherever it is required. So once again, there we need to fill so much of information related to the manuscript, information related to authors, upload the documents, conflict of interest, and suggesting reviewers, suggesting editors, or maybe the few reviewers you don't want to send your manuscript. So we need to mention all the things very clearly, the funding information and the publication charges. Are you paying from your end, or you are accepting the like a waiver of someone from the journal, or it's like open access, you want to go for it, or closed access, you want to go for it. So everything we need to mention in detail while uploading the manuscript. So once you upload everything, submit it, you're going to get one PDF proof that you have submitted the manuscript. And now the journal will take care for the first thing they're going to see is going to be like either you have followed all the guidelines as per the journal or not. If you are not followed, they'll send back to you once again to follow all the guidelines. If you followed all the guidelines, they will take further for the editorial review first. And nowadays what is happening is like publishing any manuscript becoming very, very difficult, because most of the journals become now open access, where we need to pay the money for getting published. And we are getting mostly the desk rejection. There's something like desk rejection. And desk rejection means like once it go to the editor itself is rejecting even before sending for the peer review. Peer review means like they're going to send it to the expert in that area. For example, epilepsy, if I'm sending any manuscript, they're going to choose the best person who is in the same country or maybe other country who are willing to review the manuscript. They will send it to them. They will take the consent, and then they will ask them for the review process. So that's a main like peer review process is going to be happen, and they will send it usually to 3 to 4 reviewers. In that, imagine that 2 or 3 accept it, and then they are going to provide the comments. Based on the comments given by the reviewer, now it is a decision given by the editor. Editor is going to take a decision based on the comments given by the reviewer. Either it can be accepted directly, almost impossible in many cases, directly accepting without any comments, or it may be like suggesting major revision, where you can revise once again some of the important comments given by the reviewer. Sometimes it may be minor revision, some of the minor things you need to revise and send it back to the journal, or many cases it can be like rejected directly. After the reviewer comments, it can be rejected. So the timelines depends upon the journal, and mostly the desk rejection may happen within days, like 3 to 4 days it can take to give you the first response from the editor. In case if it is rejecting, they will tell you immediately so that you can try for the next journal. And in case if they're sending for the peer review, it may take in between like 3 to 5 months approximately, based on the journal, and then how many articles they're getting, like how many manuscripts they're getting every month. So based on that, it may take some time between the 3 to 5 months approximately for any journal, and then they'll get back to you with the comments from the reviewer. And most of the times you need to revise it once again based on the comments, and then send back to the journal. And based on the revised manuscript, they're going to take a decision. Either they will send to the reviewer once again, or editor itself, they can take the decision. Either they can accept it or they can reject it. So second time it can be like mostly the accepted or rejected. Sometimes they will ask you to maybe go for one more time of revision. If there's a requirement, they'll ask you to revise it once again. So like that, we're going to get a decision from the journal. And so this is some of the important sections. I think we have discussed enough in this one. And you can go through all the sections in detail so that you will get even more idea. And the second one, I think it was there in the objectives of the session. How to choose the journal. That's what is very important. Once you prepare a manuscript, how to choose a journal is very important. One thing I used to follow here is like a very easy way of choosing any journal is going to be like, already you are having the manuscript, you are having the reference section with you. In the references, you may be having approximately 30 to 40 references. And those 30 to 40 references, they are very much relevant to the content of your manuscript, of course. Then only you are going to keep them as a references, right? Go and see all these 30 to 40 articles, where they published, in which journal they're publishing very frequently. So those are the journals which are very relevant for your manuscript also. Because the references where they're publishing, of course, your manuscript will be in a similar context. That also can be suitable for those references. That is one of the best way of selecting any journal for going for a publication, getting from the references what you are having. The second one is going to be like asking your guide, asking your expert person, corresponding author, if he's having any suggestions on that particular area, because usually if any people working on the domain for a long time, they'll be knowing some of the renowned journals in that area, and they will prefer to send it to those journals first and then try for the new journals. That's the second option. The third one, if you don't know anything, simple way is going to be like nowadays for every publisher, nowadays they have their own websites. For example, this one, Elsevier Journal Finder, right? So Journal Finder, if you can go and see, and you can land on this page, find the journal in this publisher. They're not going to give you for all the publishers. So publisher, you should understand the publisher means the people who are going to publish the journal is called as a publisher. So Elsevier is one of the very important publisher. They have so many journals. Springer is a publisher. Nature is a publisher. Wiley is a publisher. So all these publishers will be having so many journals, and they'll be publishing the journal once in a month, twice in a month, or once in 2 months, once in 6 months, once in a year. So that depends upon the journal. They'll be publishing very frequently, and they'll be publishing both in the hard copy as well as the soft copy. And every journal will be having the website where the first copy is going to be published, electronic version, and then it will come as a published version, okay, the hard copy. So what we can do simply is like either we can go and enter the entire abstract what we're having here, or maybe we can just type few keywords. For example, I'm typing Luciogli flosin and type to diabetes mellitus. Okay, so for example, my manuscript I prepared on this Luciogli flosin medication in type 2 diabetes mellitus patients, for example. If I just click on this journal finder, so on this one, we can see that I think it is not providing me any matching journals here. And maybe if we can go and type, or maybe if we can mention only diabetes, for example, type 2 diabetes mellitus. Not sure why it is not giving. Yeah. So I think as simple as possible, we need to have the keywords. In case if your article is in diabetes mellitus, it's going to provide all the journal citations which are available in the Elsevier, basically, if it's on diabetes mellitus. And when you have a citations like this, we cannot choose directly. So we can choose based on so many things, like first of all, we can go and see the impact factor and site score, and then how many days they're going to take to give the first acceptance or first decision, basically, and all these things. And then very important thing is like open access or maybe subscription based. Okay, so your article will be shared according to the journal's article sharing policy. We can choose any one option. If both the options are available, we can choose any one. If you have a money for publication to spend, we can go for open access, so that will be available publicly, freely to everyone. And subscription based means only people who pay the money, it will be available. But we don't need to pay from our end, from the author side, we don't need to pay the publication charges, article processing charges, basically. But what we need to do on top of it, we need to do, I think, go and see this journal, visit this journal page. And once you go to the journal page, very important thing we need to understand is going to be like the scope. Understanding scope is very important, because whatever the article you prepared, whatever the article manuscript you are having, for example, it should be matching to the, first of all, the aim and scope of the journal. If it is not matching to the aim and scope of the journal, the chances are going to be very high. It will be get rejected by the editor in case if it is not matching to the scope. Because this journal scope is mainly to understand about the diabetes, pathogenesis, diagnosis, management, and all these things. If your manuscript is not pertaining to this one, pertaining to something different in the diabetes mellitus, they're not going to be accepted, right? So like this, we need to go and see the scope first. And then, as I told you, like we can have this editorial board and all these things we can see if it's required for you. And then under the publishing, where to submit the article. I told you like every journal will have a separate editorial manager or manuscript central page. So it will be like this: Journal of Diabetes and its complications, where we need to go and create an account first on the corresponding author name, and then we can go and submit the manuscript through this portal only. We are not going to send any mail communication to the journal. Only through the portal we are going to submit it. And important thing is going to be like guide for authors. This is what I'm quoting again and again: the guide for the authors, author guidelines, nothing but. This is what we need to read thoroughly, completely, and prepare the manuscript according to this format. Everything they're going to mention very clearly. I told you like based on the article type, they're going to give you what are the maximum word limit you need to follow. For example, any original research article, maximum they will accept only 5,000 words. For any brief report they will accept only 1,000 words. For any review article, they will accept only 5,000 words, right? And not including up to 75 references. So like this, we need to prepare the manuscript as per the journal guidelines, and they will give you the peer review process, how it will be, open access, ethical policies, authorship, who should be the authors, and declaration of competing interest by the authors, how we need to do that, funding sources, declaration. I think here we can have like all these things we can have in detail. So all like if you want to go directly to particular information, you can click here and then you can go for it. For example, now writing and formatting, you can see it is a very huge page, very huge document. We must check all these things very thoroughly before sending the manuscript to the journal. For example, file format. So what are the file formats we need to prepare? And the title page, how we need to prepare, how there should be a title, how we need to write the author names, affiliations, corresponding author, everything. And the abstract, how we need to prepare. Even though we have some standards given by ICMJE, every time we need to follow certainly the journal guidelines given by the particular publisher. So then we can prepare the manuscript accordingly. So each and every point in detail mentioned here, we need to follow all these things, and then we can go and submit the article manuscript to the journal through this portal, basically. Okay. So I think that's it from my end. I can show you very quickly, like one of my manuscript, how we used to prepare basically, so that you will get an idea. So this is the manuscript, Lucical flows in. So we need to correct it multiple times. Being a professor, I need to correct the manuscript prepared by the students. So multiple revisions we can have it. So we can save it, all the revisions, so that we can have a documentation. And the final manuscript, so we need to prepare a covering letter. Covering letter is very important, where we are going to convince the editor first what is the importance of our article and why it is important to publish in this particular journal. So we need to mention very clearly what is a novelty in this particular research. We need to mention that in the covering letter, so that to convince the editor. So like this, we can prepare the covering letter to the editor of that particular journal, mentioning like we want to publish this article in the journal, and then what is the importance of this research, what is a novelty in this one. So this is the original article, not been published previously, and all these things we need to mention. And finally, the details of the corresponding author, right? Very important document, the covering letter, to convince the editor what is the importance, because the first thing they're going to read once you upload is going to be the covering letter. The editor should convince from your covering letter. So we need to write such a way that we're convincing the editor first, so that it can go for review at least. And then we can have an abstract. Abstract can be like a separate document, or maybe we can have within the manuscript. Anything is fine. Based on the journal suggestion, we can write a separate abstract like aim, methods, results, conclusion, and some of the keywords we can mention basically. And then, so this is the manuscript, the final version. It's a big document, it may take some time. So in the manuscript, the title page may or may not come. They will tell you, the journal will tell you either the title page can be within the manuscript or separately we need to mention. So title page, we have a title, authors, affiliations, and then corresponding author, and some of the word limits and all this information. Abstract, we have introduction. In the introduction, we need to mention very briefly about the disease, medication, and what is the information currently existing on this medication. Okay. And finally, the final paragraph should mention about why we are doing this study, right? What is the importance, what is the objective, or what is the hypothesis of the particular study. And this is what is very important in the introduction. And it's going to convince the editor that whatever we did something new, add value to the existing literature. In the methods, we are going to explain how exactly we conducted the systematic review and meta-analysis. Based on the requirements, we can have some subheadings or we can go with a simple plain method section. And the results we can have, what are the, like once we do the search in the different databases, how many articles we got and all these things. And then we can go and explain the results in detail about all the primary outcomes and all these things. Okay, so based on the number of outcomes, we can go and explain very briefly about all the findings. And the discussion, we're going to discuss all the findings comparing with the existing literature on the topic. We're going to quote more and more references here, like which is going to be add value to the current research what we performed, right? So those things we need to mention with so much of details we need to mention here, discussion. And then we can have a conclusion, one paragraph, what we are going to conclude from this particular research, acknowledgements if you have anything, and the funding if you received anything for conducting this study, and conflicts of interest, and then we can have the references. And within the same manuscript document only, at the end we are going to keep, usually we are not going to keep the tables and figures within the text as per the journal format. Basically, most of the journals will do like that. We are not going to keep the tables and figures here only. In the result section, I'm not going to keep any tables and figures. I'm just quoting here. Here, the relevance is going to be like table 1. Here, table 1 should come, basically. But I'm going to keep all my tables and figures at the end of the manuscript. That's the general format of any manuscript. We are going to keep at the end. And sometimes I think it will be like this. So even we are not keeping at the end all these things, and we are going to just provide the legends here in the manuscript, and we can prepare a separate document for all the tables and figures. So we can have a separate document. Depends upon the journal. Sometimes we can have within the manuscript. Sometimes we can have as a separate document all the tables and figures. So this is a document of tables. So we can have different tables, like table 1 with all the results. The same thing only briefly I mentioned. So what I mentioned while explaining how to write the results, we should not go and keep everything once again in the text. All these things, if you go and keep in the text, it is like a duplication. That means whatever you are having in the table, once again, you are explaining same thing in the text. That should not happen. When you're writing the result section, you need to make sure that you're not simply duplicating the information from the table. Instead of that, you are just explaining very briefly about the important findings from this table. Because the rest of the information already available in the table, anyone can go through the table and understand. You need to very, very briefly mention the important findings from this table, okay, in the result section. So like that, we have different tables, table 1, 2, and all. And if you have more tables and figures, but the journal is not accepting many tables and figures, what we need to do, we can go and have the supplementary file, which we are going to upload along with the manuscript, but not going to publish in a hard copy. It will be available only in the soft copy. But certainly we need to quote all the information given in the supplementary in the text. Somewhere I need to mention supplementary table 1, supplementary table 2 within the manuscript. So without quoting, I should not have any supplementary tables and figures. We need to quote it somewhere in the manuscript and then provide them in the supplementary file. So these are all, I think you can have as many as possible here. You can have so many tables and figures. These are all forest plots we can have in the meta-analysis. So there are so many forest plots I cannot give in the main manuscript. I'm keeping in the supplementary. So these are all the forest plots for combining the results. I told you, right? Meta-analysis. So meta-analysis is nothing but we are going to pool the results from the different studies and coming out with a one single conclusion, right? So that's what we are doing in the systematic review and meta-analysis, combining all the studies, and finally we are going to get a single outcome, a single result basically. So, and we can have n number of tables and figures in the supplementary file, and we can go and upload the same thing. So once if we go and upload, it is not that simply they will accept it. This one they send for the review, and then we got the comments from the reviewers. Reviewers are going to be the experts in this area. They will be giving you so many comments. And very important thing is like when you are addressing all the comments during the revision process, and we need to prepare a document like this, very important document, where we are going to provide a detailed reply to all the comments given by the reviewer. So in one column, we are going to have all the comments given by the reviewer in detail, reviewer 1, reviewer 2, editors, and all those things. And the other column, we are going to explain in detail for this particular comment, what is the modification we did, what's the revision we did in the manuscript, and in which page number we made the changes. So we need to mention all those things very clearly and prepare a document like this so that it's going to be read once again by the reviewer, convinced that what are the comments raised by them we have addressed thoroughly, and now the manuscript is quite perfect in the sense like, what are the expectations they were having, we have reached all those expectations of the reviewer, and now it is maybe suitable for publication. If the reviewer satisfies with all your replies for every comment, they can say that now it can be accepted, and based on that, editor will take a decision. They will accept the manuscript. Once it is accepted, they will now send it to the publisher for publication in the journal. And when it moves to the publisher, we are going to get, I think nowadays we are getting online platform. Previously, we used to get a physical PDF document. We used to get online platform only. So like this, we are going to get the proof. So we can call it as a proof. And we are going to edit the proof for any small changes, minor changes only. If any minor changes are required, we are going to edit in the proof. In the online version, we are going to have it. So these all things will happen only for the standard journal. Whatever the process I'm explaining here, it will happen only for the standard journals by the standard publishers. If you go with any predatory journals, nowadays there are so many predatory journals are coming, starting with the international journal, European journal, and all these things, where they are mainly meant for money. So they will take only money from you. They will simply publish whatever you send to them. Even though there are so many mistakes in the title, mistakes in the abstract, manuscript, everywhere, they'll simply publish because they're taking money from you. Okay, so don't fall into the trap of publishing your work in the predatory journals. Instead of improving your scholarly work, your name, it's going to be even degrade your name if you can publish any, if you publish any articles in the predatory journals by giving them money. Okay, don't do that. Even though you can spend some more time, even though you're getting more rejections, it's always better to go with the good journals, reputed journals. Okay. And finally, like once it get published, you will feel so happy for your entire work, right? So that's going to be like an ultimate outcome. We're going to have it once it is get published. Once you can see your name on the article published, once you can see your name on the website, you can see your name on the PubMed, right? You can feel so happy, and you can forget what are the pain you were having during the research process. So I think, so this is the article finally got published, just to show it to you. So we can feel very happy, right? At the end of the day, like after doing so much of work, and once it is published by a journal, good journal, like Endocrine is a very good journal, and published by the very reputed publisher like Springer, and having impact factor around 3.7, and indexed in PubMed. So PubMed index is very important. Like you will get the credits in case if you publish any article in PubMed index journals. because PubMed is a very reputed database. Not all the journals will be there in the PubMed. Only reputed journals will be there in the PubMed. If you can publish anything in the PubMed indexed journals, you will have name and fame. Okay, so and also you're going to get more citations. So more people are going to read your article. You're going to get more citations, and you're going to get your scientific profile is going to be improved a lot if you can choose any good journal and get it published. So it published finally in a journal. So this is what is called as a Prisma flowchart, Prisma guidelines. I told you, right? So 2020 we were having, now 2025 we are having. Consort 1 basically. So Prisma is 2020 only. So we're going to mention very clearly like total how many articles we got it initially, and then how many we excluded, how many we have finally included. And now, so these tables and figures now will be incorporated here within the text only, within the results will be incorporated in the editorial process while they're making the manuscript ready for publication. So that time they're going to incorporate all the tables and figures within the text, within the result section. We don't need to do that. They will do this, and then we are going to get the publication like this. Okay. So hope you understand the entire process of publication with some of the important thing we must be knowing as a researcher. And also, like I can see, there are so many teachers are available here in the session. And these are the things we must teach to the students for following some of the standard ethical principles while publishing. Okay, so thank you so much for your patient listening. Hope you got some good idea about this entire publication process. If you have any questions, maybe I can discuss further. I'm happy to respond.
Thank you, Dr. Krishna. Yeah, thank you very much. Starting from scratch, it is really helpful. Now we can get some questions. Before moving on question, Dr. Krishna, could you please little explain how to start with meta-analysis? What kind of software we use? How to narrow down our finding? How to remove duplication? Like when we search a lot of research.
Actually, for that maybe we may be having
just a brief, like people can.
Yes, yeah, it's a big thing basically. We should have a separate sessions on that. Systematic review meta-analysis is nothing but I told you, right, we are going to combine the findings from existing literature to start the topic, like how to select a topic for a systematic review. Very important thing is going to be like on any topic, what are you going through in a regular literature review. On any topic, if you feel that no, there is information available, but it is conflicting, like some information giving one conclusion, some articles are giving another conclusion. So we don't know like which one to be taken. So when you have a conflict like that, that's the best topic to be taken for conducting the systematic review and meta-analysis. So once for conducting systematic review, like I can tell you a few steps. We are going to have like a PICO question. PICO is nothing but population intervention comparison outcome. So based on that, we are going to prepare a question. And once you have a question with you, we need to now prepare the search strategy. Search strategy means we need to add the keywords by using Boolean operators like and or not. And the search strategy, we need to go and search in a different databases available with us like PubMed, Embase, Scopus, whatever available with you, you can go and search. Get all the articles from all these databases. Remove duplicates, go and screen all the titles and abstracts, see that what are the articles which are eligible for your research question, and then go through the full text article. For example, there are 100 articles which are eligible for secondary screening. Go through all the 100 and now decide that what are the articles comes into your criteria finally. And now you need to go through completely all the 10 articles comes into your criteria, extract the data, extract the very important data from all these 10 articles, present that in a systematic way and write the manuscript. And wherever possible to do the analysis, we can go and perform the meta-analysis. So meta-analysis, we need to have a quantitative data. By combining the quantitative data, and as you ask, like we need to have some softwares for that. Commonly, we are going to use a review manager, Reviman from the Cochrane, and also we can use commonly used platforms, the statistical packages like R, we can use Stata, SAS, SPSS. So these are all the platforms we can use it commonly for doing the meta-analysis, and then write the manuscript and then get it published. So it's a stringent process basically. Sometimes it may be taking more time than the research, But if you do that, you're going to get a very good amount of credits, basically. You can publish in a good journal, and I think you can see like what are the citations I'm having. It's mostly based on the systematic review and meta-analysis articles. Maybe Dr. Joshi, I can share with you in the WhatsApp one of the link of the like YouTube channel of Guwahati, where we have conducted a 2-day session completely on systematic meta-analysis and recorded all the
That would be great, Doctor. Yeah, please
share with
share.
you. Yeah, step by step, everything is explained very clearly there. So if you can share with the audience and who are interested to learn further on systematic meta-analysis, they can go
Yeah,
through that
sure,
and get
sure.
right
Thank you. Yeah.
to that.
Yeah, from the audience side, is there any question? Please feel free to ask, but be very brief. Before getting question, Doctor, here, like many journal these days, they encourage even preprint submission. Should I go for preprint or not? What is your recommendation?
I think we should not go for it. Now, I think every time, no, whenever any article rejecting, we are getting that invitation to go for preprint. What I understood is like during the COVID-19, people used to go for it, preprint. But nowadays, it is not acceptable because like once you go and do the preprint, it cannot be accepted in any other journal because it's already published, already available in the public domain. It's very difficult to get it published once again in a good journal. So that's why I personally recommend not to go for any preprint and try maximum possible to publish in a good journal, reputed journal.
Yeah, and another thing, like what, based on your like experience, what should be the role of student and the PI during writing the manuscript? Because student through every information and they just share sometimes junk. It takes more time rather starting from scratch for a PI. How do you guide in such cases?
Yeah, I think now, no, student, actually, yeah, that's what we must be having, some kind of this publication ethics and then manuscript writing classes in the
Yeah,
curriculum, basically. So we're going to, especially like, no, from bachelor's degree students, BPharm students, we cannot expect more. But master students, of course, they're doing the research and they should be knowing how to write a manuscript from the research, what they're doing. So we need to conduct some classes and then explain them like how to prepare the manuscript. And very importantly, like, no, before writing any manuscript, we should explain them or we should train them how to read the articles first. If they are having experience of reading the articles and understanding what is the structure of reading the article, like what is the structure of article basically, how to write introduction, methods and all these things. If they read more and more articles, they will get a good idea how to write a manuscript. That's what is, I think we need to train the students. And always it's better to write the first draft by the student only. And then as a faculty member, we can revise it multiple times, correct it and bring it in a good shape basically. But always we need to give the chance to the students to write it because then only they will learn. In the student stage, they can learn how to write the manuscript.
right.
Yeah.
And could you please share, like during citation we use EndNote or some other software, and some journal they say also put DOI number, link, PubMed ID on that references. Do you used to do after using those software and do manually, or is it auto we can do from the EndNote also? It directly come to the Word file so that.
I think nowadays everything is automatically comes from this softwares like Jotero, Mendeley are freely available. EndNote we need to purchase. And everything depending upon mainly the style the journal prefers. Okay, so we are going to, in Jotero or Mendeley or EndNote, we are going to mention that style, what we required, the references. As per the style, it will give you everything what is required. In that case, as per the style, if DOI is required, it will add DOI. As per the style, PubMed ID required, it will add the PMID. So like that, it depends entirely on the style what you are asking that platform, and that will give you as it is in the same fashion. But always it's better to go and see the journal guideline, what they're asking, how they're asking you to prepare the references. Accordingly, we can do that. But most of the times, my experience is like whenever we are taking the support of these platforms for creating the references, some additional things will come up there. For example, the year is going to be within the brackets, but journal asking that not within the bracket, it should be at the end. So those kind of manual changes we may need to do sometimes. Even though we are going with the platforms, but some kind of manual changes may be required here and there. We need to do those things before sending for the journal website.
And another thing, this day we are using even PI student, everyone we are using the resource. So how we ethically should think of using AI? How you used to detect there is paraphrasing properly done or not? Is there any plagiarism? What kind
Yes,
of
certainly. I
free
think
resource
now,
you could recommend us?
yeah. Nowadays, everyone is asking us to go through the, like, even especially for thesis, it's required. Even manuscripts also nowadays it's required for some journals. They'll ask us to go through the plagiarism check. And nowadays, I think I can see in the authenticate plagiarism checker, there are two things coming up. One is a general plagiarism, like the plagiarism from the scientific articles, and another one is like plagiarism from the AI platforms.
Yeah.
But we cannot avoid completely. That's what even we are also following here. My students are using AI platform. AI platform not for writing from starting. So what they're doing is like they will write on their own first in the manuscript in their own language. For paraphrasing and then like improving the language, for those purposes mainly they're using the AI platforms. Even though we are using for the purpose of paraphrasing and then language editing, still authenticate will show that no, it is a content generated by AI. But there is no
Yeah.
issue. But there is no issue. Like when we are sending the articles to journal, they're not questioning anything. But sometimes they're asking that no, for what purpose you have used the AI? If you declare that you have used the AI platform for paraphrasing and then grammar improvement and all, there's no problem at all, because they can understand clearly that no, uh,
Yeah.
mainly for any research article, it's very important. They can understand that no, any research cannot be created by AI. It must be from your own research. So in that case, it's not an issue. Like that's what even that ICMJE recommendations, now they explain very clearly how we are going to use the AI in a proper way, right? Ethical way
Yeah.
of the AI content, basically. So we need to follow those guidelines.
Like what kind of free resource are available there to check the plagiarism is there or not?
I think I'm
Some
not sure
people
about.
use Grammarly, some use plagiarism checker or something. But
I think plagiarism checker is there, the open source, but we
yeah.
used to use that authenticate. I think we need to have a subscription for that.
Authenticate, I don't know how many of our faculty
Yeah,
have.
yeah.
I used to use earlier like Tornitin, that copy killer and those things.
Yes, yes. So those things we can use it commonly if it's available with us, or maybe we can go for any online platforms also. It will give you the plagiarism check. But otherwise, also usually when you are sending to any journal, they are going to check once again the plagiarism. If it is in a very high percentage, they will send back to you. They will ask you to revise it. But manuscripts usually not a problem. Basically, we can communicate to the journal first, let them get back to us if they find any
Yeah,
huge
yeah,
percentage of like plagiarism. Not a problem.
yeah. So probably some of our young student, they don't know much about the impact factor, site score, aging factor, those kind of thing. Uh, could you please briefly cover
Yeah, I
those?
can mention like impact factor, one of the quantitative metric for a journal, and one of the parameter we are going to use while selecting any journal is going to be like a impact factor, right? So I have seen that I shown you one of the journal, it is having impact factor of 3.7, some may be having 5.5. The best journals in the medicine like NEJM and then Lancet, JAMA, they may be having more than 100, like more than 150 also. Some journals are having even 230 also, like, and having some journals may be having only 1.5, 0.2 also. So like that, we can have n number of journals and then with a different numbers as an impact factor. So the meaning of impact factor is going to be like, it is going to become mainly from the citations. And impact factor will be there for the journal, not for the article, not for the publisher. For every journal, there will be an impact factor basically. So how they're going to get the impact factor? As we know that every journal going to publish some articles. For example, they published 50 articles in the last 2 years. For those 50 articles, they got 100 citations, right? And the 100 citation they will keep in the numerator, and 50 article they will keep in the denominator. So they're going to get 2. So 2 is going to be the impact factor of the journal for this year. So every year impact factor is going to be changed. And so based on the citations, based on the number of articles they're publishing, the impact factor will be calculated. And I'll tell you very, very important point here regarding impact factor. So many journals, predatory journals, they will mention their own impact factor. They'll calculate their own impact factor. They will tell that, no, it's having 10.5, 8.7, something like that. Don't believe any impact factor given by the journal. There's only one, throughout the world, there is only one standard, trusted source of getting the impact factor is called as a Clarivate Analytics. So Clarivate Analytics impact factor only we must be considered for any journal. Any impact factor given by the Clarivate Analytics only is valid and then trusted. So they're going to have a big list. They're going to release every year. Impact factors will be there. So in that list, if the journal name is there, if the journal is having the impact factor, that's what we need to consider. Some of the standard journals from standard publishers like Elsevier, Springer, they don't lie the impact factor. They will keep as it is, whatever the impact factor they're having. You can trust them blindly. But if you're not trusting the publisher first, the publisher is some unknown publisher having so many predatory journals, whatever the number they mention as impact factor, don't trust it. Okay. And especially for Elsevier, more than the impact factor, they're going to follow site score. So site score is one more type of calculation they're going to give for their own journals, but that will be available only for the Elsevier journals. But otherwise, most of the journals will be having the impact factor. That's the first thing we are going to consider for selecting any journal, impact factor. We are going to see like at least one, at least two, minimum 3 impact factor, something like that we can take it up. The second most important thing we need to keep in mind for selecting any journal is going to be like indexed in PubMed or not. Indexed in Embase, indexed in Scopus, at least PubMed. PubMed is a very, very important one. If the journal is available in PubMed means we can blindly go for it. Irrespective of the impact factor, it is having 10, 15 or only 1 or only 0.5, irrespective of impact factor. If it is available in PubMed, blindly go for it. If it is matching to the scope of your work, go for it and submit it, let it published, so that at least you can make sure that you have published your manuscript in a good journal, which is already indexed in the PubMed. Okay, so these are the two very important things we need to keep in mind while selecting any journal for getting it published.
Yeah, thank you, sir. Thank you. Is there any question from audience side? And sorry, Dr. Krishna already mentioned that how to write stepwise meta-analysis article. He is going to share some link and we will follow that. So I will not repeat those questions here. Is there any other specific question you would like to ask? Please go ahead. Yeah, Harshdeep ji, yeah.
So thank you for the session. It was really helpful. I had one question. Like being a student, what is that one common mistake you see in student manuscriptions that significantly reduces the chances of acceptance, and how can we avoid that mistakes?
Yeah, I can tell you like, no, one of the significant, not a mistake, like a problem is going to be like the language. I can understand that many of us came from non-native English speaking background and our English writing may not be that much good. So where we need to improve a lot, I think, before communicating, because language is one of the important parameters they will consider when we are sending for any good journal. So we need to keep those things in mind for before sending for any journal, so that we can edit it. Basically, it's not like something cannot be avoidable. We can edit it by going to the professors, or maybe editing by using Grammarly, editing by using any online platforms. We can edit it properly and then we can communicate it. That's one of the biggest mistake. And the second mistake I can tell you, I told you already as well, like not following the guidelines given by the journal. They don't accept it at all. They don't even look into your manuscript if you are not following the standards given by the journal guidelines. So these are the two important things we need to keep in mind before sending for any manuscript for any journal, basically.
Yeah. Another question? Deependraji, do you have any question?
So I'm copying the link here, that YouTube link in the chat box. So you can go there and then you can find some videos on systematic review and meta-analysis, very detailedly explain each and every step. You can understand thoroughly. And still, if you have any questions or if you would like to have any discussion, I'm very happy to support you. You can write a mail to me and then I'm happy to respond to you.
Thank you, sir. Is there any question? I can take 1, 2 more. Please be very quick. No question? Yeah. Sir, what are problem and challenges faced? Aman Kumar is asking, sir, what are problem and challenges faced? Could you please elaborate what you want to ask? It's a learning process. We go through all this process during evidence synthesis. Dr. Krishna, could you
Evidence
say?
synthesis, nothing but once again conducting systematic review meta-analysis. And the problems and then challenges are going to be like mainly selecting the right question is very important here. If you can select the right question for conducting systematic review, half of the things done. And then you can go and conduct the, and I can tell you one more challenge is going to be like accessing to the databases. PubMed is freely available, but you need to have a collaboration with some people who can have an access to Embase, Scopus, Web of Science, Cochrane Library, these databases. So we can have a collaboration with them and get it done through them. But we need to search multiple databases possible. That's one of the challenges we are going to face basically. Through collaboration, we can try to avoid that. And the other thing is going to be like learning meta-analysis is very important. You need to learn the software at least any one software, minimum R nowadays people are using commonly, R Studio for conducting the meta-analysis. If you learn that, I think that will be sufficient and you can go for it basically. So this is some of the important things we need to keep in mind for conducting a systematic meta-analysis.
Yeah, thank you, sir. We already have around 1.5 hours. And if you think anything you want to share further, please feel free. Otherwise, I will try to wrap up today's session.
I think we have covered maximum possible for today.
Yeah.
And if any things are there, maybe we can
Yeah.
discuss further in the chat box.
Professor Krishna is quite approachable. Please email him. I could share email after this session, or you could find easily because you have email in his paper. And thank you all member, Association of Faculties of Pharmacy of Nepal, several faculties from Nepal, India, and research scholar, undergraduate, graduate student joined today. Some of our participants joined from US and Germany. And happy to see you all here in this forum. And let's thank together to Professor Dr. Krishna. Hope to see you in another forum also similarly. Thank you very much, sir, for your time and effort to make this worthwhile.
My pleasure. My pleasure.
Yeah.
I enjoyed thoroughly, and I'm very happy to be part of this session. Straight away, I accepted when I got the message from Dr. Joshi because, whenever we get any invitation from any other country, that to neighboring country, that to sister concerned country.
I worked with several NIPER fellow while I was in US.
Okay.
So Dr. Sarah recommended me you, and I'm happy to introduce with you, sir. Yeah, thank you.
That's great. Thank you so much for the opportunity.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Yeah. Good night.
Good night.
Thank you, Krishna sir. It's always pleasure to listen you. So it was a wonderful session when Dirgha sir approached me. Ki, is there anyone who is expert in systematic review and meta-analysis in your knowledge like that? Then I just reminded of you. It was a wonderful session, sir, and it was quite fundamentals were discussed. I think it's very, very helpful for students' point of view also. And again, we got some additional bonus, ki, sir. Now you have provided us some links. Even now I am planning ki I will run that link in front of my students during my lectures also, so that even they can learn a lot of things out of that, sir.
So, for all the faculty, at least a very important thing, at least we can teach the students is going to be like literature search.
Yeah.
Even though they are not learning, systematic review meta-analysis are not a problem, but at least they should know how to go and search in PubMed. Not like general search in search box, everyone know. There's something like below advanced search is there. All the students, irrespective of bachelor's, master's, PhD, whatever it may be, they should know at least how to go and search advanced in PubMed, sufficient for them. Later on, they can learn systematic review, meta-analysis, grade assessment, so many things are there. Even I'm learning, basically. Even though I'm doing systematic review from 10, 15 years, still I'm learning some new things coming up every time. But basic thing is going to be like how to search. Not only for systematic meta-analysis, it's important for even for conducting any research. Like before directly jumping into the research and then start doing the research, very important to understand the first thing, how much information already available on the topic. Many times what will happen, like after starting the research, after doing the research quite a time, in the middle point we'll understand that I think no, this is already done by someone. Why we are doing it once again, right? So waste of resources, waste of money, waste of time, everything. So literature is very, very important for everything, basically. That's what we need to inform to the students and then engage them and teach them maximum possible. And there's one lecture you can find in the YouTube channel by Miss Vasumati Sri Ganesh. Excellently explained about literature search in PubMed. She's the best one in India to teach the literature search, librarian basically. If you can show that to all the students in the classroom, I think that will be the great thing.
Is that the link you shared just earlier?
It's available there. In the same link, actually, there are so many videos are there.
Okay,
you can
okay.
find one video of Miss Vasumati Sri Ganesh on literature search by PubMed.
Okay, okay, sir.
You can find
Okay,
that, yeah.
thank you very much. Thank you, everyone. Let's live happily. Okay.
Okay,
Good
thank
night.
you.
Yeah,
Good night.
thank you, sir.
Bye.
Thank you, Dirgaji.
Thank you so
Thank you,
much, sir.
Krishna, sir.
Thank you. Thank you.